I have another 12 by 12 layout for you today. This is using the American Crafts Dear Lizzie Neapolitan collection. And I am also scrapping Instagram photos. And my next layout will also have an Instagram photo. I don't know, we had 3 in a row like that, but things just go in waves. And what I'm doing is I have this layout where I have my sister and my brother, and it's from my brother's graduation. We had a little party for him in our hotel room. She's wearing pink, he's wearing brown. I've got a guy and a girl, and I want to make sure that it's, not too girly because it's his graduation. But I'm not afraid of using pink on layout that a man is in either. So I pulled some pink, I pulled some brown, I pulled this wood grain chevron, some Polaroid paper, and I'm also going to use this cloud vellum. And I'm going to put it all on a white cardstock base. So the papers, I'm just kind of layering them on top of each other to see how they look with each other, to see what I want to do. And I've decided with the chevron, the wood grain chevron, that I'm going to cut it into strips where it looks like arrows or rows of individual chevrons instead of a chevron pattern, and put that behind the photos. And put the photos on that brown cardstock and matte everything on the pink. But the white was too stark, so I put the vellum behind it, and I really liked how that looked, but I didn't want to use the entire sheet of vellum on one layout. So I'm actually cutting a 10-inch square out of the middle of the paper using my Fiskars trimmer. And I'm going to keep that 10-inch square to use on other layouts. And then I'm going to cover that hole in the middle. So it'll look like I used the whole sheet, but I won't be wasting it. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to adhere this pink piece of paper to the clouds. And then as soon as I put it down, I think to myself, oh, I wish I'd inked that. So I'm actually going to pull it up and then ink it. But I just found the easiest way if you're trying to do this is just to kind of drop it on there. And it'll line up just right. But then I had to I had to take it off. And so now I'm inking it with weathered wood. Weathered wood is a nice gray color. I really like it. Pumice stone would have been another good one for this layout or this collection. It's actually a really good collection to mix with either grays or browns. It kind of goes both ways. It's really nice. So now that I finished inking it, I'm going to stick it back down to the vellum. And the vellum curled when I peeled this off it, which is why the vellum's now taped down to my desk because I couldn't get it to stop curling. And so now I'm just going to put adhesive just on the back of the cardstock and adhere this whole thing to my piece of white cardstock. And that way I have the cloud background, and I still have a large piece of the cloud paper left for later. And so now I'm cutting the ends of these strips so that they all end with white, and so that they have kind of a fishtail shape. And then I do the same thing on the opposite ends, and they look kind of like really elongated arrows. And that looked okay. But what I didn't like about it was that the chevrons were pointing through the photos. So it really just drew your eye right to the photos and then straight down and off the page. And I knew I was going to add a title and journaling as well, and I didn't want them to be completely lost. So what I end up doing is cutting them in half and then turning both ends into fishtails so that they'll point to the photos up from the bottom and down from the top, instead of pointing from the top of the page to the bottom of the page. And I liked that a lot better. But at this point, I'm thinking I want it to look like they're straight. So I'm lining them up with each other. I'm lining one half up with the first half. And when I get done doing that, I don't like it. So then I have to tear them up. And do it again. But once again, this is just, I tear stuff up all the time, and it doesn't really bother me because no one will ever know or see it. And even if I mangle something really badly, it's just paper. Is the cheapest embellishment that you have in scrapbooking. And in the case of these chevrons, I have plenty of this paper left that I could use if I screw it up really badly. So I really am willing to experiment, and I don't worry about it too much. So now I've added foam tape to the photos, and I'm also going to add foam tape to the ends of the banners so that they will not lay flat once this is in a page protector. And I sped this up to 5 times speed, but it still took a while for me to add these little foam squares. I use Scotch 3-dimensional tape on a roll, and that's how I do my foam squares. I like it because it's thinner than most foam tape, so it doesn't make anything 2-dimensional, and if I want it really dimensional, I can just stack them. It's super easy. So now I found 3 of the Polaroids from the collection that I want to use on my page. One has a camera, one says "Let the fun begin" with a little moped, and one is a journaling spot. So I'm going to use those 3. I like the way they all seem to fit with the sentiment, the camera, and there's a place for me to do some writing. And there's not a whole lot that needs to be said about this photo. It's basically going to be titled "It's 5 o'clock somewhere," because my brother and sister are holding, my sister's holding a clock that says that 4:30 is the time. They're holding an empty tequila bottle because we had a party with a ton of people in our hotel room. It was in 2 hotel rooms, and there's a bunch of people there from his school for his big graduation weekend, and family and everything. But we definitely started the party as soon as we got there. So all right, so now what I've done is I've adhered the 3 spots together so that I can treat this thing as one unit. That's going to make it easier for me. And then the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add foam tape so that'll be at the same level as the photograph. And I just want to make sure I don't adhere it so far over that it covers the clock or my sister's face or anything like that. So then I got this idea that I would use the number paper that is in the collection and cut out a 4 and a 30 and use those as embellishments on the page. And while I think it was a fine idea, it just didn't really work. There were too many boxy things on the layout already, with the Polaroids, the photos being square, all the papers being square. It was just too many squares. So I ended up not going with that idea. And with that in mind, I think I need to soften some of these edges, so I'm going to punch some scallops. So I used a scallop border punch to punch some of the orange polka dot paper from the collection. And I'm going to put a piece at the top of the photo and a piece at the bottom of the photo. And they're not perfectly straight or anything like that. Again, that sort of thing isn't really going to bother me on this layout because everything is straight so far on this layout that some movement is actually going to be kind of a good thing. And then I'm going to staple through the adhesive with the tiny attacher so that they look like they're stapled on the layout. And then I'm going to get an additional scalloped edge. I'm going to put it on that edge of the brown. And so I'm just going to trim it with my scissors. And once I've got it to the right length, I'm going to adhere it down with my HEG. And that's going to bring in some more of the white. And then I tried to put a title in that pink space, and the pattern paper was just a little too busy for a title to look good. So I just cut a piece of this banner paper and adhered it there so I'd have a less busy pattern. And the banners worked really well with the whole party celebration atmosphere. And then I tried 3 different sets of thickers in this space before I settled on these Amy Tangerine wood grain thickers. And the one thing that I try when I use this particular set of thickers is I try to orient the letters so that the wood grain is straight up and down on each letter. And I think that just makes them look a little bit less busy than they do when I don't pay attention and the wood grain is going every which way. And then the other thing is with chipboard thickers, I always add Scotch Quick Dry to them, or liquid glue, because their adhesive is just really not the most aggressive thing in the world. And I have had thickers fall off the page after they've been stored in an album for a while. So now I just always add adhesive to them. And that's it for the layout. And I'll have still photos of the layout after this. Thanks for watching.